My name is Kofi. I am an old man now, and my bones ache when the rain comes. But some memories, they don't fade. They stay sharp and clear. This story is not about a famous person or a great warrior. It is about my neighbor, a woman named Margaret. And it is about the day our whole village learned a lesson we never forgot. It starts, as many sad stories do, with a father who could not see. Margaret and I grew up together. Our hearts were close. I could hear the arguments from next door. Her father, Boberton, was a stern man. He had lost his wife when Margaret was born, and he blamed the little girl for it. He wanted sons. Strong boys to help him on his farm, to carry his name. Margaret. He treated her like a burden.
Go and fetch water.
She did all the work, fetching water from the far river, cooking, cleaning. But it was never enough. Boberton would say, "What use is a daughter? She will marry and take our wealth to another family." He called her useless. We all had it. But Margaret, she had a quiet strength. She wasn't loud or angry. She had a smile that could calm a nervous goat. I remember once, I fell and cut my knee badly. She saw me crying. She didn't say a word. She just ran to her hut, took a clean piece of cloth, probably her only good one, and tore a strip of it to bandage my leg. Her father shouted at her for ruining the cloth later. She just nodded and took the scolding. The worst day came during the dry season. The harvest had been bad. Food was scarce. Tensions were high. Boberton had been drinking palm wine. He and Margaret were outside their hut. "You eat my food and give me nothing in return," he shouted. The whole compound went quiet. We all stopped what we were doing. Margaret was grinding cassava. She kept her head down. "I do my best, Papa." "Your best is not enough," he roared. "You are a leaky pot. I pour my resources into you, and nothing remains. Get out. Go and find a husband to be a burden to. You are no daughter of mine." My own mother gasped. Margaret looked up, her eyes wide with shock and hurt. She didn't cry. She just slowly put down the grinding stone. She stood up, looked at her father for a long moment, then turned and walked away. She didn't take a bowl, a blanket, nothing. She just walked down the path that led out of our village into the bush. I wanted to run after her. My mother held my arm. "It is not our business, Kofi," she whispered, but her voice was sad. Life in the village went on. But it felt darker. The kindness that Margaret carried with her was gone. People argued more. Boberton became a bitter, lonely old man. His farm grew weeds because there was no one to help him. He never spoke her name. Years passed. 5, maybe 6. We all assumed something terrible had happened to Margaret. The bush is not a kind place alone. Then, one afternoon, we heard a sound we didn't know. A rumble. Children ran to the edge of the village, pointing. A cloud of dust was coming down our rough road. And in the cloud of dust was a truck. A big, strong, shiny white truck. It was the first vehicle many of the little children had ever seen. It stopped right in the center of the village. We all gathered around, staring. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. She wore strong, clean clothes and good shoes. She looked important. And then she took off her sunglasses. It was Margaret. But it wasn't the Margaret we remembered. This woman stood tall. Her eyes were the same, kind, but now they held a certainty, a confidence. She looked around at all our shocked faces and she smiled that same calm smile. "Hello, my people," she said. Her voice was still soft, but it carried. No one knew what to say. Bobber turned, who was now frail and leaning on a stick, came out of his hut. He squinted at her. His mouth fell open. Margaret walked right up to him. The whole village held its breath. Was she here for revenge? To shout at him? To tell him how wrong he was? She stopped in front of him. He couldn't even look her in the eye. "Papa," she said. Not cold, not angry. Just stating a fact. He mumbled something, looking at the ground. Then Margaret did something unbelievable. She reached out and took his frail, old hand. "I have come home," she said. She didn't stay at his hut. She had helpers on the truck unload a new, proper tent for her. But that evening, she called the whole village to a meeting. She told us her story. It wasn't a fast story. She spoke for a long time. She told us how she walked for 2 days, hungry and thirsty, until she reached a big town. She found work washing clothes for a rich family. They paid her very little, but she saved every single coin. She ate only once a day to save money. "Why?" someone asked. "Because I knew my value," she said simply. Even if no one else did. She saw that the family she worked for always bought beautiful, expensive fabrics from a trader in the market. Margaret, who had a good eye for color and pattern, asked the trader if she could sell his cloth for him in a different part of the town. He was skeptical. A young, poor girl. But he saw the honesty in her eyes and gave her a small chance. Margaret worked harder than anyone. She was polite. She never cheated anyone. People started to trust her. They came back to buy from her. The trader gave her more cloth. Soon, she made enough money to buy her own small pieces of cloth to sell. Slowly, her small pile of coins grew. She rented a tiny store. Then she hired another girl, who was poor and hungry like she had been, to help her. Her business grew. She started a second store. Then a third in another city. "I became successful," she said, "because I treated people well. My workers are my family. I helped them, and they helped me." She had come back, she said, because this was her home. And her home was sick. The river where we fetched water was also where animals drank and bathed. Children were often sick. The school under the big tree had no books. She was not here to show off her wealth. She was here to share it. The next morning, her truck left and came back loaded with bags of cement, and pipes, and tools. Margaret hired every strong young person in the village, paying them good wages. They built a proper well with a pump, so we had clean water. They built a solid schoolhouse with a proper roof and real desks. She brought books and hired a teacher. Our village changed. It came alive. The children were healthier. They were learning. People had money to fix their homes. And what about Boberton? Margaret built a new, clean hut for him, right next to her own. She made sure he had 3 good meals a day. She hired a boy from the village to help him with his farm. She never once was cruel to him. She never brought up the past. She just cared for him. One evening, I saw him sitting outside his new hut, eating a bowl of stew. Margaret was sitting next to him, watching the sunset. He put his bowl down. He turned to her, and his old shoulders were shaking. He was crying. "My daughter," he said, his voice cracking. "I was blind. I was a foolish, proud old man. Can you ever forgive me?" Margaret put her hand on his. "I forgave you a long time ago, Papa," she said. "Holding on to that anger would only have poisoned me. I chose to let it go." That was the real moment everything changed. Not with the truck or the well or the school. It was that moment. Margaret stayed in the village. She became our leader, not because she demanded it, but because we all looked up to her. She married a good man from a nearby town and had children of her own. She taught them to be kind, to work hard, and to always help others. Boberton lived the rest of his days as a happy, respected grandfather. He loved Margaret's children more than anything. He told them stories, but he always made sure the hero was a smart, kind girl. So, that's my story. Margaret showed us all that your start doesn't have to be your finish. That kindness is a strength. And that sometimes, the person everyone looks down on is the one who ends up lifting everyone else up.